Hey yo, welcome to another episode of Super Serious Malls. We are back in the Ortigas Center for another legendary mall. Well, it's in my opinion one of the nicest looking malls in the metro in every iteration of its existence. But it's also legendary for It's the first mall of Robinson's Land, Robinson's Galleria, or if you're Filipino, Robinson's Galleria. It was the year of 1987. Robinson's Galleria wasn't a thing yet, but it certainly was a thing in the mind of John Robinson Lim Gokongwei Jr. Yes, his middle name is Robinson. He's definitely qualified to say, "Mall is my middle name, Henry." It had only been 2 years since the opening of the SM City in North EDSA, and, well, a lot of the retail and real estate companies have been thinking hard about getting a piece of that mall pie, including Gokongwei himself. Robinsons was already an established brand at the time, having opened a department store in Ermita, Manila, somewhere in the early 80s, which, by the way, stay tuned for that video. And another in Cebu City for good measure. A mall already existed in the Ortigas Center, or what would become the Ortigas Center, the Manuela, or what you now know as Star Mall EDSA Shaw, or the spawn point of many Camille Villar posters. But Gokongwei saw a classier mall for his Galleria, and so, he set eyes on a plot of land at the corner of Ortigas Avenue and EDSA at the Mandaluyong Quezon City boundary, and Pasig. The Catholic Church also wanted a part of the aforementioned land, but they only took a small nibble of the lower corner, which is now the People Power Revolution commemorating EDSA Shrine. The rest? All in Mr. Gokongwei's hands. But not so fast. Henry C. also wanted that land. He and John had a bit of a bidding war over this land, in fact. Gokongwei bidded 1,900 pesos per square meter on the land, but C came in at 2K per square meter. However, Gokongwei had a bit of a trump card. He's gonna pay the 5% commission of the agent. C insisted the agent's commission wasn't part of the bidding and that he won fair and square. But instead of going through a lengthy court case, the men insisted on a coin toss. We all know to whom it went to, but, well, it would have been an interesting timeline to see Mega Mall and Robinson's Galleria switch places. Maybe the funny urban legend would have haunted SM instead in this timeline. But now, for real, it's actually in Gokongwei's hands. And he didn't just want a mall. He wanted an office building, condominium, and a hotel to be integrated into the mall complex itself. The largest mixed-use development in the Philippines. A mixed-use mall like this from all of SM, Robinsons, and Ayala are pretty much dime a dozen nowadays. And it seemed to have started right here at Robinson's Galleria. Gokongwei was quite ahead of his time. Construction started in the middle of 1988, and it took about 1.5 years to complete. And on January 12, 1990, the 4-story Robinson's Galleria, alongside the Galleria Corporate Center, opened to the public. Let me have some fun in the arcade first. It's a Robinsons mall, so naturally it has to have Robinsons anchors. I won't yap about it too much, I'm just gonna put it over in this screen. The original interior design of the mall had a beige-ish theme with green accents on the tiles and the exposed truss ceiling. Very 90s. Reminds me of a mall that opened 8 years later that I grew up with. It does have a thing in common where, despite being flagship malls, they don't even have Uniqlo. A fountain sat at the center court, probably one of the first ever to appear inside an indoor Filipino mall, this side of Harrison Plaza. Its water impressively shot well into the side of maulers at the 4th floor. Imagine the wow factor seeing that for the first time in 1990. I'm sure it's a memory that sticks to the minds of many a Rob Galleria OGs today. The main atrium was adorned with a pair of curved staircases, flanking a pair of scenic elevators. And of course, they had a first-class view of the fountain. And oh yeah, they had planters between the floors. Probably fake, but it's the 90s after all. And we're back in it! The hotel component of the mall in a Holiday Inn was slated to open after the mall opened, eventually doing so in 1993. The mall was quite a hit in its first year. It was quickly given a nickname by locals, Rob Gal or Rob Gale. But we gotta address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the snake in the fitting room?
After all, where can you find people willing to believe in a part man, part snake creature stalking the halls of a department store?
The snake is as big as me. It's half man, half snake.
If anybody can find that creature, I swear I'm going to give the entire Galleria to him.
An urban legend started going around about a half-snake, half-man, or taong ahas in Tagalog, that resided in the basement of Robinson's Galleria. Lore says spy cameras were set up inside the fitting rooms of the mall's Robinson's department store. Unsuspecting victims trying on things would then fall down through a trapdoor and into the basement. And then that sad snake man would be the last thing the victims ever saw, before they are its dinner. For some reason, the victims are always young women. The rumor started supposedly from an unnamed competitor, 5 years before Robinson's Galleria opened, the time when the Gokongways opened their second store in Cebu City. It's not even unique to Robinsons at the time. The Gaisano chain, among other stores in Visayas and Mindanao, had similar rumors about snake men living in their premises. The snake man, named Robin, was said to be the half-brother or pet, depending on who told you this story, of Robina Gokongwei, the eldest child of John Jr. Either way, it was said the Gokongweis kept this snake man as a good luck charm for their business.
There's another rumor that the snake is my pet, not my brother. I just want to show everybody, this is my pet. Piggy say woof.
You're more likely to die from cuteness at this rate. As ridiculous as this urban legend sounds, it spread like wildfire across the Philippines.
Yung ibang customers sir talaga sumasama kami sa loob. Ayaw nilang iiwan namin sila. Nakikita na namin katawan nila, hindi sila nahihiya kaysa naman daw lumubog sila.
So we were off, in search of the snake. Our conclusion, no snake.
It even got famous actresses part of this lore. Most famously, Alice Dixon. In an interview with Dixon at pep.ph, full interview in the description, her association to the urban legend started from her being at Robinson's Galleria for a shoot. She went to a bathroom at the 4th floor near the department store to change outfits. Well, some trolling happened between Dixon and her crew, and somehow that led to local tabloids reporting that she was bitten or eaten by a snake in the mall. She initially stayed silent about the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous to begin with. But this brand new installment of the urban legend also spread like wildfire. She eventually went on TV to prove she was never eaten or attacked to begin with.
Marami nga nagtatawag dito at nagtatanong nga kung totoong natuklaw ako ng sawa. Pero it's not true. I'm still here and I'm still alive, so yun.
But for some, it was a cover-up by the Gokongweis and that she was paid by them to disprove the existence of the creature.
Ayun daw nagiging biktima na babayaran daw para tumahimik.
And while the spread of the urban legend hurt them all in a way, so yeah, this mall's got literally the largest mall in the country at its time as its main rival now, on top of having a scary urban legend attached to it. But they aren't gonna quite give this up. Man doesn't live on bread alone, and so does Robinson's living on Galleria alone. By the end of 2001, They had opened 9 more malls in addition to Galleria, including the expansion of the original Robinsons in Ermita into a full-fledged mall. Quite a wild growth considering that this all started in 1997. By comparison, SM had opened 12 malls from 1985 to 2001. So glad it didn't get uni-wided from the financial crisis. And going back to Galleria, an expansion was built on its north side a few years back. One level of this expansion was dedicated to parking, but the upper two? All additional mall space. 2 additional towers were constructed as well. The Crown Plaza / Galleria Regency, a part hotel, part residential tower, directly connected to the mall itself of course, and the 175-meter, 574-foot Robinsons Equitable Tower, which is not directly connected to the mall itself, and it's outside of the mall complex in fact. One of the first upgrades to the original mall was the expansion of the Robinsons Movie World Cineplex at the 4th floor from 6 cinemas to 10. Still doesn't quite beat the whopping 12 screens of SM Megamall, at least at its time, but hey, it's only 2 less this time. The 4th floor was also rezoned a bit, I guess. Yet another redevelopment took place in 2005. The addition of a new escalator atrium directly in front of the EDSA entrance of the mall in the West Wing. It's definitely a good way to entice people dropping off at the Ortigas bus stop to come visit Robin and his Galleria, wink wink. There was also yet another rezoning with additional food and beverage establishments in the West Wing. And if that's not enough, there's an area dedicated to sports stuff. This side of the mall was given accents of blue at the exterior. It would have been a lot more blue if they followed the renderings. Maybe SM gave them a cease and desist. The mall's interior was also refreshed from that old school peach color scheme to largely white with red and teal accents. Still a very classy look for what it is. Unfortunately, the fountain at the center court would be ditched for, well, nothing. A massive shame considering one of Robinson's Mall's defining features were these fancy fountains. And the sacrifice of their original fountain kind of started the downfall of their other fountains in other malls. Remember what I said about an area dedicated to sports stuff? That area was called Sports Loop. You know, a loop for sports. Totally not for anything else. These zones were a staple of the mall during its time. Directly on top of Sports Loop was the kid-oriented zone, Jump Street. And on the east wing, on the first level, sits to this day, a My Domain. Pretty much Robinson's version of SM Cyber Zone, which happens to be a large one at SM Mega Mall. Even the rivalry goes down to how many Realme zombies you have. Meanwhile, 50th Avenue resided on the East Wing's 3rd level, which appears to be if you had a bazaar mixed with a normal store. And on the same floor as 50th Avenue was the health and beauty zone, Body Senses. And last but certainly not least is the Jewelry Lane, located at the 4th floor. Did I just say it's the last one? No, not really. The east and west lanes designate the hallways above the expansion parking floor. And the main hallway of the mall was named the Gallery. In 2006, Robinsons Retail bought the license to Toys R Us. You know, that famous American toy store chain that's almost extinct in their home country nowadays. Their first store in the Philippines was right here at Robinsons Galleria, occupying the spot where the Dreamscape Amusement Center was. Today, Toys R Us is part of the Robinsons retail portfolio. anchoring many Robinsons malls and even other malls that don't have the letters SM in them. Same thing goes for Robinsons department store and supermarket. See posters and print ads for details. For DTI NCR permit number 69420, series of 2025. Meanwhile, SM weren't gonna continue sitting on their collective thumbs when it comes to improving their giant malls, including Mega Mall.
You are my gravity, gravity, gravity 君と行ける未来今広がってく You are my gravity, gravity, gravity 光求めと We can fly high.
The first of two Mega Mall expansions from 2006 to 2013 was completed in 2008, the Mega Atrium. More of that in my terrible Mega Mall video. Robinsons quickly, by quickly 2 years, responded with yet another redevelopment, the conversion of the expansion parking building into a row of restaurants called the Veranda. A pretty good move because one of Mega Atrium's main tenants are, in fact, restaurants. Not like Robinsons Galleria already had a few restaurants at its time, but more is more for sure. But this streak of redevelopments would end in a pretty dark note though. On March 29, 2012, armed robbers attacked two security guards in a robbery of one of the mall's banks. A grenade was thrown in the premises as well. One of the guards tragically lost his life, and the other was left in critical condition, but survived in the end. 5 other people were also injured in the incident. Over a year later, late at night on October 29, 2013, Christmas decorations caught fire at the toy section of the Robinsons department store. The fire prompted guests at the Holiday Inn to evacuate to the Crown Plaza Hotel. Wait, the evacuated people in a hotel that's part of the mall to another hotel that's also part of the mall. Genius. The blaze lasted for 6 hours, which forced the mall to be closed for 2.5 days. And oh yeah, to add insult to injury, or fire damage, SM Mega Mall's Mega Fashion Hall opened a few months after that incident. It was at this time the mall started to show its age, even compared to Robinsons' own malls in Quezon City. Robinsons Magnolia, which opened on the same year as the new at the time Mega Mall expansions, and is a mere 5 kilometers away from Galleria, looked like this. In 2014, Robinsons opened another mall in the Galleria name in Cebu City, this one also looking far more modern than their original Galleria. But this mall is a precedent for how they'd once again renovate their former crown jewel. And well, they are never gonna be giving up, letting down, running around, and deserting their original shopping mall. Robinson's Galleria, the original, started its second skin shedding in 2016. Wow, saying that was quite a challenge. It's like a tongue twister. Just like Galleria Cebu, the theme they went for is wood. Wood claddings adorned almost every part of the ceiling, covering the trusses. Yeah, it blocked a lot of the skylight, but you gotta do it for the classy. The rest of the aesthetic is a bit of a whitewash, but for good reason in my opinion, as it makes the wood the centerpiece of the mall's interiors. It's one of the nicer modern renovation jobs in my opinion. Yours truly had his high school graduation right here in one of these cinemas. Right there. I don't remember if it was Cinema 1 or 2, but it was one of those. Unfortunately, they took out the staircases and the fancy big R-adorned double elevator at the center court. But hey, they cooked hard with this one. So hard, they knocked down the columns on the third floor. All of the zones from the 2000s were discontinued, with the exception of My Domain and the Veranda. My Domain had since been rebranded as DigiWorld. My Domain sounds like MySpace. Maybe that's why they renamed it, because only boomers like me remember MySpace. The renovation took about 2 years to complete. And speaking of completion, what more to celebrate the relaunch of your original mall by producing a commercial for it, starring Alice Dixon and wait. International chains like H&M and Uniqlo also moved into this mall, which occupied opposite sides of the Robinsons department store on the second floor respectively. Though the latter left during the pandemic, at least this mall had a Uniqlo, unlike a certain company's flagship mall which never had one. And speaking of Uniqlo, the amusement center Time Zone relocated into its space it used to occupy in at the second floor. The mall right now boasts a floor area of 216,000 square meters, more than double of its original square meterage of more than 100,000. It plays second fiddle to Robinsons Manila in terms of being their largest mall so far. Unfortunately, foot traffic at the mall dwindled a little bit after the thing in 2020. The old Ortigas bus stop, situated across the mall, was discontinued in exchange for an EDSA carousel station. That sounds fine and good, but there's one problem to that. It's located in front of SM Megamall Building A, in which they are building a direct access bridge to. It's not the easiest mall to walk to either. You'd have to walk the narrow and smog-filled sidewalk of EDSA to get to it from Megamall or the Ortigas MRT3 station. And well, since Megamall's right there, why go to Galleria? The Ortigas Greenways project would have connected Robinson's Galleria directly to not only the Ortigas MRT3 station, but also every other mall in its immediate vicinity, and then some. So far, only the segment between ADB/San Miguel Avenue and Sapphire Street along Julia Vargas Avenue had been completed, and the project had gone radio silent since then. Average Filipino infrastructure project. The mall still has transportation terminals, with point-to-point buses and the legendary UV Express, among other services in there, going to different parts of the metro and then some. Of course, direct access to MRT3 and the EDSA carousel would have been even more ideal, in addition to that thing, but at least there are those options so far. And that's kinda about it about Robinson's Galleria. It's the mall that put Robinson's on the map in the ever-growing circle of mall and retail in the Philippines, even innovating in a way by adding offices, hotels, and condominiums to the mall complex, which is something almost every mall developer does nowadays. Robinson's Malls currently has 55 locations around the Philippines. Some hits, others hits, later misses, all because of SM, funny enough. Others with the mixed-use DNA of Galleria, and others even bearing the Galleria name. Either way, they definitely have a place among the elite mall developers in the Philippines, alongside SM, Ayala, and Gaisano. I know it's not a unique rumor to Rob Gale, but how many malls in the world are there where you'd be able to say to a random mall goer, "Oh, one actress almost got eaten by a snake man in this mall, but she managed to escape. How wicked is that?" Despite the public distrust it naturally got at its peak, I think this lore added a legendary aura to this mall, ironically enough. It's in the same realm as the White Lady of Balete Drive in Quezon City, or even the ghosts of Star Mall Alabang. And the Gokong Ways embracing the meme, especially Mrs. Robina herself, probably helped soothe the impact of the urban legend over time, especially that commercial with Alice Dixon. And despite SM Mega Mall, among other malls in the area, living rent-free in their heads, Rob Galleria managed to survive it all. At the very least, it's a good alternative alongside Shangri-La Mall and the Podium, with the perpetually crowded, constantly out of parking neighboring mall. Let's see how true the parking statement is after Mega Mall's redevelopment though. And it has a look that stands out among the 5 malls in the EDSA Ortigas area, in all of its iterations. If you're in the area, feel free to visit this mall for its vibe. And say hi to Robin for me, please.